Good morning. It is Saturday, March 22nd. I am Stephen C. And you are at Steve OC's this TikTok Live. Every morning, you are here at 11 a.m. Central Time as we review Course in Miracles, reviewing the lesson of the day, and then a corresponding text, portion of the text from Course in Miracles. We go over it every morning at 11 a.m. Central Time. If you missed the live, or if you'd like to see any of the other 80 episodes, please go to YouTube. The link is in my bio at Steve OC's, here on TikTok, also on YouTube at Steve OC's. And we begin every day by looking at the introduction to the text. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming and spending some time. We talk about spiritual subjects, metaphysics, esoteric studies, the occult, esoteric Christianity, if you will, which is what I think the Course in Miracles is. And we begin every day. So follow this account and like this live. And we begin each live by reading the introduction to the course, which says this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And I begin with that introduction to the course, to the text, every day, because it really sets up the discussion quite nicely for what we will be talking about here every day. And it notes that the Course in Miracles is a required course. Well, what does that mean? We are all here to wake up. We're all here to remember who and what we are. We are all here to return to our source, hopefully in the body. We want to get as close as we can. We want to come into the best alignment that we can, raise our consciousness and raise our vibration to such an extent that we've basically created the kingdom of heaven here on earth. We've returned to our source and to the remembrance of our source. So we are all involved in the same project. We are all headed toward the same goal. According to the Course in Miracles, we are all individually and collectively the prodigal son. So we are returning to our source. Now, even though it's a required course, as the introduction says, free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum, but it means only, it says, that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. And according to the Course in Miracles, there are only two teachers. One is a teacher of separation. One is a teacher of division and conflict. That is the ego mind, according to the Course. The other teacher is a teacher of unity consciousness, of the one mind of God. That teacher is the Holy Spirit, and that is the curriculum. The curriculum is taught by the Holy Spirit, who is within us. Now, today, on Saturday, March 22nd, 2025, we are on lesson 81 in the Course in Miracles, And there has been one review so far after the first 50 lessons. Now there is a second review, which begins today after the next 30 lessons. So I'm going to go over the introduction to the second review and then the two lessons that are to be reviewed for today. And the reviews, yes, go over previous lessons. So there is one lesson per day in the Course in Miracles. And the workbook is designed to help us remember and recognize the true thought system. The thought system of God, the thought system of the truth, which is within us. This is what the workbook lessons are designed to do, to help us remember. And the Course says, practice the lessons. Practice the lessons whether or not you think they will help you, whether or not you agree with them, and even if you resist them, even if you actively resist them, practice them nonetheless, Course suggests. So there is a sense of resistance. There is a state of consciousness within us, which is not real, by the way, but which we believe is real, and we respond to it as if it is real, which will resist our efforts at waking up. There is a part of us that wants to just continue to sleep. Metaphorically, stay in bed and pull up the covers. Stay in that nice, warm, cozy bed of oblivion and ignorance. There is a part of us, there is a part of everyone who wishes to do that, but the Course encourages us to discipline our minds, change our minds, renew our minds, and return to the true glory and state of being in which we were created. So the review begins today with an introduction. So these are lessons, going to be lessons 51 through 80. And it says, we are now ready for another review. We will begin where our last review left off and cover two ideas each day. The earlier part of the day will be devoted to one of these ideas, the latter part of the day to the other. We will have one longer exercise period and frequent shorter ones in which we practice each of them. The longer practice periods will follow this general form. Take about 15 minutes for each of them. So a longer practice period, that's about 15 minutes perhaps in the morning, as soon as we get up, is a good idea to set our day in the proper direction, to orient ourselves properly. Begin by thinking about the ideas for the day and the comments that are included in the assignments. Devote some 3 or 4 minutes to reading them over slowly, several times if you wish, and then close your eyes and listen. So included in those workbook lessons for the Course is, of course, the idea of meditation, being able to, as it just suggested, close our eyes and sit quietly and listen, be still and know, as it says biblically. So it's important, I believe, and it certainly is more or less a consensus, that if you're on the spiritual path and you wish to make some progress, perhaps you should have some sort of meditation practice. There should be some sort of prayer, an active meditation, prayer, an active communication with your higher self, with an inner state of peace and love, with the universe, whatever word you use to identify that, actively through prayer and also passively through a state of meditation or a state of receptivity, a state of silence and stillness. So that is being suggested here. We think about the two ideas of the day for 3 or 4 minutes and then sit silently. So basically, a meditation. And it says, listen quietly but attentively. There is a message waiting for you. Be confident that you will receive it. Remember that it belongs to you and that you want it. So, this Course in Miracles, as it says, is a required course, and it is also a course that we really want to learn. It's true, we really want to learn it. It's true, we really want to wake up. That is part of the truth. That is part of the treasure that has been buried within us, buried in our consciousness, buried deeply within the subconscious mind. And we wish to discover it. We really do. In fact, it's the only thing we do want. Why does it seem like we want other things? Because of the interference of the ego mind, the interference of the carnal mind, the interference of the mind that thinks it's part of this world, that has forgotten that it has made up this world in association with God, but also without God. So this world is mixed. We've eaten of the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. So we have a mixed situation here, an adulterated situation. Of course, as Moses reminded us, thou shalt not commit adultery. Don't mix things up. Unfortunately, that is the state of the ego mind. The state of the ego mind is confusion. The state of the mind of separation, which expresses itself as division, criticism, judgment, negative judgment. Unfortunately, confusion is its core principle, its core state, its foundation, if you will. So, be confident you will receive it. There is a message waiting for you as we practice these phrases for today. Be confident that you will receive it. Remember, it belongs to you and that you want it. So seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be opened if we ask with confidence. JJ says, I've been experimenting with fasting periodically myself. Yes, sir, that will help. That energy that is needed. I would say for meditation and for a spiritual practice in general, you can find some of that energy if the stomach, if the furnace is not using energy to process food. So, yes, fasting does help, as does watching your diet, less sugar, those types of things, as you know, all help the spiritual program. So, yes, JJ, thank you for the comment. Appreciate it. Please leave comments, everybody. Tell us how you are doing. Tell us what you do. They are greatly appreciated, and they help everyone who's here, everyone who's hanging out. So thanks again, JJ. Also, you can hit the like button. Hit the like button. Keep hitting the like button. And you can also follow this account. Share this live. Hit the arrow at the bottom of the screen. Share it with your friends and followers. And it helps distribute it and helps get this conversation out into the world. And so we are participating in our own salvation and in the salvation of our brothers and sisters, as it says in the Course. It's that simple. And as the Course also says, there is no big and small. Every action that we take from our center in the consciousness of the Holy Spirit is a 100% expression, a maximal expression of love. Course in Miracles calls it. So Share the love, share the live, hit the like button, follow this account, and the Holy Spirit will use it to bless each of us. That's the truth. Okay, so we are practicing 2 thoughts for today. We're reviewing them. We have not found out what those thoughts are yet. So far, we've just talked about how to practice. Now, it says, do not allow your intent to waver in the face of distracting thoughts. As I said earlier, once we start to practice the thoughts in the workbook from the Course in Miracles, the ego mind, the mind of separation, will start to interfere. And one of its basic tools is distraction. So distracting thoughts will begin to come up. What do I have to do today? What did I forget to do yesterday? What do I have to do tomorrow? Distracting, worrying thoughts. So do not allow your intent to waver in the face of such distracting thoughts. Realize that whatever form such thoughts may take, they have no meaning and no power. Replace them with your determination to succeed. So, giving us instructions here specifically for these practice periods, but also generally in the sense of your spiritual practice. With our spiritual practice, be determined to succeed. With your spiritual practice, be determined, set your intent not to be distracted from your spiritual practice. Do not forget that your will has power over all fantasies and dreams. Trust it to see you through and carry you beyond them all, both in the micro and the macro. Right? Regard these practice periods as dedications to the way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Regard these practice periods as dedications to the way, the truth, and the life. Refuse to be sidetracked into detours, illusions, and thoughts of death. You are dedicated to salvation. Be determined each day not to leave your function unfulfilled. So the Course in Miracles is advanced metaphysics. The Course in Miracles is, as I like to say, esoteric Christianity. Esoteric meaning specialized, advanced, right? Really for a select few because of the dedication that's needed and the commitments that's needed, discipline that's needed. And it is, the Course in Miracles is that kind of curriculum. It really is. It says, reaffirm your determination in the shorter practice periods as well, which are holy instants, right? Using the original form of the idea for general applications and more specific forms when needed throughout the day when we become irritated, frustrated, depressed, all those types of things, all those sort of negative emotions. Right away, we're going to repeat the phrases, rededicate ourselves to salvation, rededicate ourselves to truth throughout the day. In addition to maybe 15 minutes in the morning before we get going, 15 minutes at night before we put our head down on the pillow. Reaffirm your determination in the shorter practice periods. Some specific forms are included in the comments which follow the statement of the ideas. These, however, are merely suggestions. It is not the particular words you use that matter. So this is lesson 81, and the ideas for review today are, number 1, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. And it says, how holy am I, who have been given the function of lighting up the world. So what I am and what my function is, as you can see, are synonymous. They're the same. That is a unified consciousness. I am the light of the world, and my function is to be the light of the world. And guess what? That is my only function, to be the light of the world. no matter what else I do, no matter if I have a family or not, no matter if I have a career or a job or not, no matter what I do, whether I'm retired or whether I'm still in school, I am the light of the world, and that is my function. Therefore, there's a singular function, which makes it easy to remember once you remember to remember, right? How holy am I, who have been given the function of lighting up the world! Exclamation point. Let me be still before my holiness. In its calm light, let all my conflicts disappear. In the calm light, thank you, Beverly, for the likes. Everybody, please like the live. Hit that like button. Hit it 2, 3, 4 times. Keep them coming. Thank you, Beverly. And in the calm light of my function, in the calm light of my function, all my conflicts disappear. All my problems disappear. As we said the last couple of days, let me recognize the problem so that it can be solved, and let me recognize the problem has already been solved. The problem is when I forget that I'm the light of the world. If I remember I'm the light of the world, which is the practice for today, there are no problems. In its peace, let me remember who I am, capital W. Some specific forms for applying this idea when special difficulties seem to arise might be, and then it lists 3 special forms of I am the light of the world. We could say to ourselves, let me not obscure the light of the world in me. Let the light of the world shine through this appearance of a difficulty. Let the light of the world shine through it, or this shadow will vanish before the light. So the shadow, which some of us have done, shadow work, shadow processing, right? And what it's saying there is, of course, that everything proceeds from the inside, as you know, to the outside. The outside is an illusion or an appearance or a dream, as it's often referred to in the Course. So this shadow will vanish before the light. The work is actually being done internally, but will be reflected externally. And that difficulty or problem I seem to be encountering outside of myself, lack of money, lack of peace, lack of a place to live, lack of transportation or vehicle, is actually an inner problem. It's an inner complex of thoughts. It's a sort of a crossed wires, thoughts, a complex of thoughts within me, which are all knotted up like a ball of string that needs to be untangled, stretched back out. Gets projected outside of us, and it looks like there's a problem outside of us. And if you understand even that much of the Course, you're way ahead of 90% of the population, 90% of all of our friends and brothers and sisters we see on the earth, because we have forgotten, we have truly forgotten, and we are deep into it, right? Many people will know the term Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. We are deep into it. And since it is now the age of Aquarius, we have descended halfway around the circle. Now we're going back up the circle. Age of Aquarius. Here we go. Boom. So, coming out of the darkness into the light, individually and collectively. Now, the first phrase was, I am the light of the world. The second phrase for today is forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. And as I say, every time we encounter the word forgiveness in the Course in Miracles, it's good to go to the back of the book. In the Manual for Teachers, there is a glossary of terms, an explanation of terms. If you do not have a Course in Miracles book, volume, you can find it online at ACIM.org. So the entire book and the entire workbook and the entire text and the Manual for Teachers is online. And it also has a great search function, so you can search the word forgiveness and then look for it in the glossary of terms, because in the Course in Miracles, forgiveness has a very specific definition, which we've been over several times. It can be summed up by saying, only illusions can be forgiven. I am forgiving my brother for what he has not done. That's how it can be summed up. So go and read about forgiveness sometime as it is defined by the Course in Miracles. It will benefit your mind, your consciousness, your heart, and your soul greatly. So number 2, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. So number 1, I am the light of the world. 2, forgiveness is my function. It is through accepting my function that I will see the light in me. And in this light will my function stand clear and perfectly unambiguous before my sight. My acceptance does not depend on my recognizing what my function is, for I do not yet understand forgiveness, which is why I have suggested go check it out, go read about it in the Course in Miracles. But as the Course always does, it points out that the only reason we're here in this realm, on this planet, in this dream, the only reason we're here is we do not understand quite yet. We do not yet understand 100%. We don't really get it, which is why the Holy Spirit is accompanying us on our journey, which is why the Holy Spirit, the helper of the Christ presence, the feminine aspect, the Holy Spirit, Sophia, the Divine Mother, is with us to help us on the journey. Yet I will trust that in the light I will see it as it is, forgiveness, right? Specific forms for using this idea might include, let this help me learn what forgiveness means. So if I find myself in a situation that seems difficult, that's challenging me, that's triggering me, that's upsetting me, let this situation help me learn what forgiveness means. Right? My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. This meaningless situation, which is an illusion, which is part of a dream, which is about as meaningful as the dream I had last night, and not symbolically, but as far as anything that can affect me, really, right? If something happens in a dream during the night, and then I wake up, has it actually happened? We usually say, no, it hasn't actually happened. I wasn't actually flying. I wasn't actually driving that car. I wasn't actually flying that plane. Whatever it was that happened in the dream, no, it's meaningless. And the Course is trying to tell us, as it says, as it actually says in the text, what if you woke up from the one dream and didn't realize you were still dreaming? Right? A dream within a dream for all you Inception mavens, connoisseurs. The movie Inception, the Christopher Nolan movie, right? With our friend Leonardo DiCaprio. Inception, dreams within dreams, dreaming within the dream. So, let this situation help me learn what forgiveness means. Let me not separate my function from my will. My will is forgiveness. I will not use this for an alien purpose. I will not use this situation that's disturbing me. I will not use it to create a grievance. I will not use it to hold a grudge. That would be an alien purpose, according to the Course in Miracles. So forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. I am the light of the world, and forgiveness is my function. So try to remember both of those phrases throughout the day, particularly if something becomes disturbing or boring or whatever it becomes. Or just try to remember it. If you're having a good day, extend it. Extend that good day. Extend that good feeling. Raise that vibration a little bit higher. I am the light of the world. Forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. Now, we also cover, review, look at, talk about a portion of the text that corresponds to the workbook lessons. So we just did workbook lesson 81. So there is the 81st section of the text, which is chapter 10, section 4, and it's called the end of sickness. Chapter 10 is called the idols of sickness, idols being wrong thoughts, wrong images. So the idols of sickness, sickness doesn't really exist in whatever form, the Course says. So this is the end of that nonsense, right? Something to think about and eventually demonstrate, but don't get tripped up if you or someone you know is suffering from sickness. The Course is very clear that is not a reason for condemnation, that is not a reason for self-judgment. It's simply information. It's simply a data point, really, because it's part of a dream again. It's part of an illusion. It's not real. So we're trying to straighten out our consciousness. That's all forgiveness is about. I'm forgiving my wrong thoughts, and I'm using the Holy Spirit and my brothers and sisters and my experience to help me identify what they are, to gather those data points, and then I'm adjusting, I'm making the proper adjustments. Okay, so this is called the end of sickness. Wouldn't that be nice? In all its forms, which it will point out here. So the end of poverty, the end of loneliness, the end of isolation, the end of sickness. All magic, it says, is an attempt at reconciling the irreconcilable. And again, don't get caught up on the word magic, because there's nothing wrong with the word magic. It's just that it's given, again, a specific meaning in the Course in Miracles. So a miracle is a function of healing. It's an indication of healing. And magic, according to the Course in Miracles, although miracles and magic can be synonymous, to use a big word that we used earlier. Okay, they can mean the same thing, but in this particular case, they mean the opposite. But don't trip. All magic is an attempt at reconciling the irreconcilable. That's the part we want to remember and be aware of. If something can't be reconciled, don't waste your time trying to reconcile it. Don't try to reconcile illusions with the truth. They're on opposite ends of the stick, or opposite ends of the pole. The truth and illusions, they're complete opposites. They can't really interact. When you bring illusions to the truth, that's it. The illusions disappear. The truth is the truth. The light, when you bring the darkness to the light, the darkness disappears. The darkness really has no independent existence. The light is what radiates. The light is what has life. So the light is what is real. Let there be light. All religion is the recognition that the irreconcilable cannot be reconciled. And I would say all spirituality is the recognition. That's okay. It says religion. Same thing, religare. At its root, religion means the same as the word yoga, which means binding back to God, binding back, ligare, religion, back to, ligare, to be bound. What is bound in heaven is bound on earth. So bind ourselves back to God, unbind ourselves from the darkness. Sickness and perfection are irreconcilable. So that's what we're talking about. If God created you perfect, you are perfect. If you believe you can be sick, you have placed other gods before him. Bold statement there. So it's the idols of sickness, right? And if we're going to end sickness, we have to understand we've placed other gods before the one true unified consciousness, the one God. So idols are images, according to the Course in Miracles. Idols are altars to incorrect thinking, mistakes in thinking, not sins. The Course says there are no sins because sins cannot be corrected. There's only mistakes, and mistakes can be corrected. And the corrector, the healer, is the Holy Spirit, the energy and consciousness from God that has been sent, that has been extended to help us reclaim the truth, the correct functioning of our thought, and the correct thought system, which produces healing. Yes, JJ says, how does that work for SAT? I'm not sure what SAT is, but how does that work being born with a genetic type illness like asthma? Yeah, that's the question, right? Why? Okay, S-A-Y. Okay, how does that work for being born with a genetic type illness like asthma? So, right, we need a different thought system. We need an expanded thought system to reconcile that, which is what we've just been talking about as we read this portion of the text. So the general idea is that we are an infinite being. We are created by an infinite being. We're created by God. And the way that God has created us is to extend itself as us. So we are created in the image and likeness of God. So we have the same elements, and we are composed of the same elements of God. So therefore, we are also infinite. So why the sickness? Why the poverty? Why the illness? It is because we've decided to challenge ourselves or play a game of limitation. We've decided to bind ourselves, contain ourselves in time and space, and that containment and that limitation then produces itself, since we are infinite, in infinite form. So we might be poor, or we are somehow limited. And what we're trying to remember is that we're really limited in consciousness. The limit is not really in the body, because the body is an actual limit. The body is a symbol of that limitation, otherwise called separation, which is what we were talking about earlier. So any disease, any illness, any poverty, any sign of death, any form of death, that it's called in the Course. So this is how the Course explains it, which is what we're just reviewing here as the universal curriculum, as it says. So in a general sense, if we think of ourselves or everyone we know as an unlimited being, then we can say we've taken on a challenge. And, right, we have to train ourselves to say we took it on voluntarily. Why do? And I know this sounds like, playing a game and talking about an illness or a disease. You kind of have to open up a little bit to that. But when you play any game or any sport, right, there's rules and there's restrictions. Out of bounds, there's fouls, there's things like this. So a game is always bound by rules. So we're in a grand game. A grand game designed by an infinite mind called time and space. So I hope that it's helpful. We'll go back to the text here, though, but I hope that's helpful. And, this also, any condition can be healed. I suppose that's the last thing I'll say. Do you know of anyone who's had an illness or disease and has been healed? And I can say that I do. Several people, in fact, because I'm sort of always hanging out in those circles. I've been attracted to them vibrationally. And so people who've, even without regular treatment, I know someone, for instance, who was healed of Hodgkin's disease, which is a form of cancer, if I understand it correctly. And she was a spiritual person. She was in a sweat lodge, but she was working on it with her diet and with other practices. And she had a spontaneous remission. She was in a sweat lodge, and she came out of the sweat lodge, and several days later, a mass was passed. She passed a mass. Eventually went back to the doctor, and it was gone. I've spoken of this previously, I think on the live. I also have a friend who had cirrhosis of the liver and was told 40 years ago, literally, when we were, probably 35, something like that, years ago, that he had 6 months to live because he was such a drinker and a drug user. He also used heavy drugs, but he used to like to drink. We knew each other in our late 20s, early 30s. He was told at the time he had 6 months to live because his liver was shot. Now, you may have heard of Michael Beckwith from Agape out in Los Angeles, but he has a couple books. He's been on television, and he's been in a couple movies of the type. Every so often you'll see him if you're familiar with Michael Beckwith. My friend went to Michael Beckwith, the doctors told him you have 6 months to live. Michael Beckwith told him, I don't think that's true. But despite the fact that he had apparently liver that was shot, and if you ever knew this guy like I knew this guy, because I was hanging out with him, and I used to join him in his celebrations, not like him, but he was far more proficient than I was, let's say. He was healed. He's still with us 40 years later, and he was given a death sentence by the doctors. So, all that to say, yes, there are these conditions, and they are conditions of the mind, conditions of consciousness, and the esoteric part of our existence. That is the question, and that is the challenge. So, thank you for the question, and thank you for hanging out and listening. I appreciate it. So hopefully that's helped, and will continue to help. So if God created you perfect, you are perfect. If you Believe you can be sick, you have placed other gods before him. God is not at war with the God of sickness you made, but you are. Right? So God did not create sickness is also the overarching idea, the universal idea. So it says God is not at war with the God of sickness. You made, but you are. So we, all of us together collectively, came up with this idea called sickness. And we said, let's find out what that's like from the perspective of unconditioned spirit, from the perspective of our soul, which is perfect, whole, and complete. And the God of sickness is the symbol of deciding against God, and you are afraid of him because he cannot be reconciled with God's will. If you attack him, you will make him real to you. But if you refuse to worship him in whatever form he may appear to you, and wherever you think you see him, he will disappear into the nothingness out of which he was made. Something else just occurred to me, JJ, the breath, asthma, the breath is often used as a symbol for spirit. So people also are healed through doing breath work. So asthma also is a symbol of, let's say, separation from spirit. Yeah. So there's probably even a greater chance than normal there for a spiritual healing of that condition. More of a concentration of God on God, drawing closer to God, could heal that condition. So thanks again for the question and that comment. And it says the sonship, capital S, which is all of us collectively, the sonship cannot be perceived as partly sick, because to perceive it that way is not to perceive it at all. So it's either all ego mind or all Holy Spirit is what it's trying to say. Remember, we're talking about the irreconcilable, the opposite ends of the pole. If the sonship is one, it is one in all respects. Oneness cannot be divided. If you perceive other gods, your mind is split, and you will not be able to limit the split, because it is the sign that you have removed part of your mind from God's will. This means it is out of control. To be out of control is to be out of reason, and then the mind does become unreasonable. Yes. Let's see. Let me finish this paragraph. By defining the mind wrongly, you perceive it as functioning wrongly. See? And JJ says, I've kind of started thinking of the actual air we breathe could literally be God himself. I would agree 100%. That's a good place to start. Really cool. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Spirit, right? Inspire, respiration. Inspire is the Latin word for spirit, and we say we're inspired, and to expire, of course, is to lose the breath, is to die. To inspire is to take the breath in, right? So inhalation, exhalation, right? Are from those Latin words. So yeah, 100%. Air, spirit. Same thing with, because I was just thinking that while I was reading this last paragraph. Same thing with my friend. Same thing with alcoholics and inhale, exhale, Yahweh. Good one. The other thing is spirits, right? Alcohol are called spirits. And alcoholism and substance abuse, drug addiction, whatever term you want to use, is a spiritual affliction. And I'm a member of 12-step programs. I grew up in an alcoholic household, and I can tell you it was a spiritual affliction. So great discussion today, JJ. Thanks. You're bringing the smoke. Bringing the smoke. Thanks. Yeah, exactly. Inhale, exhale, Yahweh. Perfect. God's laws will keep your mind at peace because peace is his will and his laws are established to uphold it. His are the laws of freedom, but yours are the laws of bondage. Since freedom and bondage are irreconcilable, their laws cannot be understood together. The laws of God work only for your good, and there are no other laws beside his. Everything else is merely lawless and therefore chaotic. Yet God himself has protected everything he created by his laws. Everything that is not under them does not exist. That's how we can heal ourselves, by actually understanding, believing, knowing that what is unreal does not exist. So, as the discussion is here, illness and sickness does not really, exist, but we can experience it. We can have the experience of it, which is a step on the pathway, the road to learning, on the road to the truth. TikTok says he doesn't exist. Uh-oh. Who's he? Is it who I think it is? TikTok? You are not free to give up freedom, but only to deny it. You cannot do what God did not intend, because what he did not intend does not happen. Your gods do not bring chaos. You are endowing them with chaos and accepting it of them. All this has never been. And it says some comments in this live were filtered to protect our experience. So I think TikTok joined, and imaginary sky daddy is fiction. Well, it's a good thing that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the Course in Miracles, and yes, we're using certain words to talk about that. But the sky daddy, I would agree with you, is fiction. So it's a good thing we're not talking about that. We do agree on that, Senor TikTok. Okay, so you were created through his laws and by his will, and the manner of your creation established you as a creator. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not in the sky with some dude sitting on a throne. No, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Your health is within you. Your wealth is within you. What you have made is so unworthy of you that you could hardly want it if you were willing to see it as it is. You will see nothing at all, and your vision will automatically look beyond it to what is in you and all around you. Reality cannot break through the obstructions you interpose, but it will envelop you completely when you let them go. So we're talking about reality with a capital R. When you have experienced the protection of God, the making of idols becomes inconceivable. There are no strange images in the mind of God, and what is not in his mind cannot be in yours, because you are of one mind, and that mind belongs to him. It is yours because it belongs to him, for to him ownership is sharing. Right? So you can see how the Course uses words differently. The Course is using words differently and using the definition of those words differently. So the question is, how do you describe the indescribable? What words do you use? And the Course quite strictly points out that words are symbols, and in the language of the Holy Spirit, which really is a feeling and a revelation within us, symbols have to be used. So words have to be used. And again, as it outlines in the preface, the framework of Christianity is used to explain this universal curriculum, but it is not the only way to explain it. So those words and symbols are not the only way to explain it. But the question is, how do you explain it? How do you communicate it? It's really not about the words, right? So though TikTok thinks he or she is being contrary, they're not being contrary at all, right? If we can see, if we can understand what the Course is actually talking about, we can actually see past the sense of opposition there, which is only a sense. So we can actually see past it to the agreement and unity of it. Okay. Ownership is sharing, right? So that's obviously different than how the world thinks of things. To the world, ownership is ownership. What's mine is not yours. What the Course says is that what is mine is yours. Because it's a thought and it's consciousness. So that can be shared and nobody loses anything. When it's shared, it's strengthened, right? It is because it belongs to Him. It is yours because it belongs to Him. For to Him, ownership is sharing. And if it is so for Him, it is so for you. His definitions, the definitions of the words, right? The definitions of the symbols are His laws. For by them He established the universe as what it is. No false gods you attempt to interpose between yourself and your reality affect truth at all. Peace is yours because God created you. He created nothing else. The miracle is the act of a Son of God who's laid aside all false gods and calls on his brothers to do likewise. It is an act of faith because it is the recognition that his brother can do it. It is a call to the Holy Spirit in his mind, a call that is strengthened by joining. Because the miracle worker has heard God's voice, he strengthens it in a sick brother by weakening his belief in sickness, which he does not share. The power of one mind can shine into another because all the lamps of God were lit by the same spark. It is everywhere and it is eternal. Awesome. I love it. I love it. The truth is the truth. Okay. If you have ears to hear, if you have eyes to see, you can hear it, you can see it. It is done unto you as you believe, right? That's all it is. That's the operation of consciousness. It is done unto you as you believe. Yes, there is no sky daddy, as TikTok is saying. Yeah, it is done unto you as you believe. So TikTok says protection of God is not reality. But what if you just took out the middle 4 words, or 3 words? What if you said protection is reality? Reality is protection. What if you said that? Yeah. JJ. Yeah, baby. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of funny. It is kind of funny. Reality is protection. I cannot be attacked. That's what we're really talking about in the Course here today. So thank you for recognizing that, JJ. And one more paragraph and we're out. TikTok will cut me off soon. They gave me 60 minutes. Follow this account. Hit the like button. Check out my link for YouTube where all this gets uploaded. Go check out some of the other podcasts, some of the other lives. And thanks for being here, JJ. Thanks for being here, TikTok. Thanks for being here, everyone. So, last paragraph. We were talking about the spark and the light, the spark of the light. Thank you, JJ. Yeah, I enjoyed it also. Thanks for being here. In many, only the spark remains, for the great rays are obscured. Yet God has kept the spark alive so that the great rays, like sun rays, can never be completely forgotten. If you see but the little spark, you will learn of the greater light, for the rays are there unseen. Perceiving the spark will heal, but knowing the light will create. A lot of new perspective for JJ. Great to hear. Awesome. That's all we're after, man. Just opening our mind a little bit, opening the aperture a little bit, right? So more light can get in and we can see the picture differently. So great. Glad you were here, JJ, and hopefully you will return. I'll see you again soon. Yet in the returning, the little light must be acknowledged first. Acknowledge the spark first, for the separation was a descent from magnitude to littleness, right? So if you think of an aperture, letting in more light, again, that's a restriction, which we talked about earlier. So a restriction in consciousness, right? So an open mind, an expanded mind, or a constricted mind. Whom will you serve? Which will you serve this day? Open-minded or closed-minded, right? But the spark is still as pure as the great light, because it is the remaining call of creation. Put all your faith in it, and God himself will answer you. So that was chapter 10, section 4, and those were that was the text and also the lessons of the day. And remember, the lesson of the day is I am the light of the world, and forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining. And I do this every day at 11 a.m. Central Time. Go over the course and a bunch of other subjects. So go to my bio, check out my bio, check out some of the other content that's been uploaded, and look for me on all of the other social platforms. Peace and blessings to you all. Love you, and hopefully we'll see you again in the near future. Have a great day. Take care. Have a great weekend. Peace and blessings, and talk to you soon. See you around. Peace.